There were dozens, flags held high, rusted instruments playing music without melody. And at the end came the float, a giant porcelain mask, cracked, turning slowly, looking right at me. Not past me, not near me, at me. Most folks celebrate the 4th with fireworks, flags, and cookouts, but out here on the road, we see a different side of America. Tonight, I've got 4 stories for you about vanishing kids, silent parades, and fireworks that don't make a sound. You're listening to Trucker of the Night, and this 4th of July, the lights in the sky might not be what they seem. The wrong fireworks. I'm not a fan of fireworks anymore. Not since the summer I turned 16. People always laugh when I tell them that. What, too loud for you? They joke, but it's not the sound. It's the color. It was the 4th of July, 2017. My family lives in a quiet town in southern Illinois, surrounded by cornfields, patches of forest, and neighbors you only see when someone dies or when someone's grilling. The kind of place where nothing really changes. Every 4th, there's a fireworks show at the high school football field. Everyone goes, everyone. Except that year I couldn't. I was sick with strep throat, and my cousin Nate, who had come to visit from Missouri, had just sprained his ankle 2 days before. So while my parents, little brother, and practically the rest of town headed out to the field with lawn chairs and bug spray, Nate and I were stuck at home. We stayed on the back porch. It was warm out, maybe 80 degrees, with that sticky summer heaviness that makes your shirt cling to your back. I remember drinking orange Gatorade and playing cards under the yellow porch light. We couldn't see the town's fireworks from our backyard. Too many trees in the way, but we could hear the distant boom of them echoing across the fields. We were joking around, trying to guess which firework just went off by sound alone, when we saw the first one. It came from the woods, not directly from them, more like just beyond the tree line that borders our backyard. We live on the edge of town, and those woods stretch out for miles, mostly undeveloped. We used to call it Dead Deer Forest when we were kids because one year we found a carcass in there and never really got over it. But this firework, it went up in perfect silence. No launch sound, no boom, just a bright streak of green that exploded mid-air into a jagged starburst. It didn't fade like normal fireworks, it just blinked out, like someone turned off a light switch. I remember Nate saying that was weird. I agreed, but we both figured someone was setting off their own show. Illegal fireworks from Missouri weren't rare around here. Then came another, a deep violet spiral that spun faster than anything I'd ever seen. Still no sound. And then another, yellow, long, slow tendrils that seemed to stretch way farther than they should have. It was hypnotic beautiful, in a way. Until I realized something, none of them left smoke trails. I pointed it out to Nate, and he kind of squinted at the sky. Maybe they're electric or something, he said. Like drones? It wasn't a bad guess, except they didn't move like drones. They didn't have that subtle mechanical twitch. These things moved like they were being painted across the sky, deliberate, slow, and somehow wrong. We kept watching. There was something captivating about them. I think we both felt it, though we didn't say it out loud. It was like we had to keep watching. At some point, the light on the porch went out. I figured a bulb had blown. We didn't even react. We just sat in the dark, watching the colors. Eventually, one of them, a red rectangular pattern, came from deeper inside the woods. Lower this time, much lower. It didn't rise up into the sky like the others. It just hovered above the trees, pulsing like a beacon. That's when Nate said we should check it out. I remember turning to him and saying, "Why the hell would we do that?" He shrugged. "It's not like we've got anything better to do. Come on, you bring the flashlight." We argued about it for a bit, but I gave in. I don't know why. Maybe I was curious. Maybe I just didn't want to stay there alone. So we grabbed Dad's big mag light from the garage, hopped the backyard fence, and walked toward the woods. The air got colder as we stepped past the first few trees. The difference was immediate, sharp, like going from a sauna into a basement. The bugs were quiet. No frogs, no wind. The further we walked, the darker it got. The flashlight helped, but it wasn't enough to shake the feeling that we weren't supposed to be there. Not at night. Not during the 4th. The woods had always felt a little creepy after sunset, but this was different. This felt watched. And then we saw them, not fireworks. People. 6 of them, maybe more, standing in a small clearing ahead of us, all facing the same direction, all completely still. They wore dark clothes, too dark to see detail, and stood shoulder to shoulder like a silent crowd. We crouched behind a log and killed the flashlight. The red light, the hovering one, was directly above them now. It pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. No firecracker sounds, no music. Just a deep thudding sensation in my ears, like pressure, like something just behind the skin. I leaned closer to Nate and whispered, "What the hell is this?" He didn't answer. When I looked at him, I realized he was crying. Just silent tears running down his face, eyes wide. And I knew then. I knew we needed to leave. But I also knew they'd seen us because the red light moved. It tilted, not drifted, not floated, tilted, like it was swiveling to look directly at us. The people in the clearing turned in unison. They didn't speak. They didn't move toward us. They just stood there, facing us, like mannequins, like reflections waiting for us to blink. We ran. I don't even remember getting back to the house. One minute we were in the woods, the next, we were slamming the back door shut and locking it. The porch light was on again. My Gatorade was still on the table. The condensation melted. But everything felt wrong. My chest was burning. Nate wouldn't talk. He didn't talk about it the next day either, or the day after. He left 2 days early, back to Missouri. We never told my parents. I thought maybe it was a dream, or heat stroke, or some freak hallucination. Until the next 4th of July, I was healthy that year. We all went to the fireworks show. My parents, my brother, even Nate came back, trying to act like everything was normal. But halfway through the show, I looked to the east, and I saw a green streak rising out of the woods. No sound, no smoke. Just that same silent, sick green, too bright, too sharp, slicing across the sky like a signal. Only we could see. Nate saw it too. He didn't say a word. He just put down his hot dog and walked back to the car. We haven't celebrated the 4th of July since. And I haven't looked toward the woods at night for 5 years because I know the lights are still there. And I know now they weren't fireworks. They were watching, and we watched back. The man in the flag. I served 2 tours in Iraq, came home in 2012 with a limp in my right leg and enough nightmares to fill a library. The VA gave me some pills that didn't do much, and I eventually moved back in with my mom in a suburb outside Pittsburgh to figure out what came next. What came next was quiet, boring. Even I worked part-time at the hardware store, played poker with my uncle on Tuesdays, and kept my head down. I avoided crowds, especially loud ones, especially fireworks. I don't blame people for loving the 4th of July, cookouts, beer, explosions in the sky. What's not to love? But for me, the sound of fireworks always hit the same nerve. My heart raced, my hands shook, And there was always that second where I forgot where I was, and I expected someone to die, so I started a tradition. Every 4th, I'd drive up to a ridge about 10 minutes from town, where the trees blocked most of the noise, and you could still see the sky light up from a distance. I'd sit there with a cooler, a cigar, and music in my earbuds. Not exactly festive, but better than a panic attack on the couch that worked until 2015. That year, I woke up on July 4th with a strange feeling. Not panic, not dread. Just that gut-deep weight you get when someone's standing behind you. Watching, I shrugged it off and went about my day. That night, I followed the same plan, cooler cigar. The ridge I parked at the turnout like always and climbed the hill. It was almost sundown. The trees were glowing orange. The first firework lit the sky while I was still setting up my folding chair. That's when I saw him, standing on the other side of the clearing, maybe 30 yards away, still as stone. At first, I thought it was a flag on a pole. The wind was flapping it slightly, but then it shifted, turned its head. It was a man, or shaped like one, standing tall, his entire body wrapped tightly in an American flag. I mean completely wrapped, from his feet to his neck, like a mummy. The flag clung to his shape, shoulders, chest, arms at his sides, and over his head, where his face should have been, was another piece of fabric. A second flag, tied like a hood. It moved again. A slight twitch toward me. I stood there frozen, one hand still gripping my folding chair, and then it stepped back into the trees. I didn't sleep that night. Next year, same day, I returned to the ridge. I almost didn't go, but I figured if I didn't face it, I'd never go outside on the 4th again. Same setup, same sky. No man. For a while, then I saw him. Further this time, just beyond the tree line. Again wrapped in that tight, silent flag, just watching. No movement, no sound. I blinked, and he was gone. It became a pattern. 2017, he stood behind my car when I came back from the ridge. 2018, he was in my backyard when I let the dog out at midnight. 2019, he appeared across the street during the neighborhood's cookout, still as stone, while everyone else laughed and drank. No one else saw him, I know, because I asked. At first, I thought I was losing it. PTSD, a side effect of the meds. But then he started getting closer. By 2020, I stopped going to the ridge. I stayed inside, all windows covered, TV blaring, but at 11:03 p.m., the power went out. And in the dim light from the moon, I saw him standing in my living room between me and the door. Same flag, same posture. Except this time, his face covering was slightly parted. And underneath, I don't even know how to describe it. Burned, maybe wrong, a patchwork of skin and ash and stitching, like someone had tried to build a face out of smoke and fire. I didn't scream. I couldn't. He stepped toward me, one slow movement, then another, and then he turned and walked out the front door. I'm not proud to say I left town after that, moved to Ohio, different job, different town. No one knew me. No fireworks visible from my new place. I thought it was over. Until last year, July 4th, 10 p.m. I was sitting alone on the couch, curtains drawn, watching a documentary on naval battles. And from the corner of my eye, I saw a flicker. Outside the window, red, white, and blue. I turned slowly, and there he was, standing on my porch, closer than ever. The flag on his body no longer flapping, no longer worn. It was soaked, dripping something dark onto the wood. He didn't knock. He didn't move. He just watched. And then, without warning, he smiled. I still see that smile when I close my eyes. It's why I keep every light on in the house now. It's why I never go out on the 4th anymore. And it's why I'll be leaving town again this summer. But I'm starting to wonder if he'll keep following. The parade route. My hometown has one claim to fame. the 4th of July parade. It's nothing big or flashy, just a small town procession with fire trucks, marching bands, kids on bikes with streamers, the whole works. We'd all gather early in the morning and line up along the main street, about 10 blocks from start to finish. They handed out popsicles, old vets wore their uniforms. There was a certain charm to it, an innocence, until they changed the route. I was 14 when it happened. Out of nowhere, the mayor announced that due to road damage and safety concerns, the parade would be rerouted 3 blocks east. Nobody thought much of it. Main Street was a little cracked, sure, and I remember them saying something about sinkholes. But what always struck me as weird was how sudden it was. No construction signs, no repairs afterward. They just blocked off that section of Main permanently with 2 city trucks and some fencing. And on the 4th of July, they posted a police cruiser on each end, even though no one used that part of the street anymore. After that, people just sort of forgot about it, but I didn't. Because that old stretch of Main was where I'd always stood with my grandpa to watch the parade. And after he died, I started going there alone. Even after the reroute, I don't know what I was looking for. Maybe I was just being nostalgic, or maybe something was pulling me back. Last summer, July 4th, I got drunk. Not an uncommon thing in my 20s, but this time, it hit different. I was back in town visiting my mom. A few high school friends were having a backyard thing, and the drinks flowed fast. Somewhere around midnight, my friend Kayla dared me to walk the cursed block, as people half-jokingly called it now, the old parade route. She said no one had walked down it in years, not even during the day, and that no one ever should. That kind of challenge was irresistible when you're buzzed and nostalgic. So I went. I remember laughing as I climbed over the city fencing. It felt like nothing. Just an empty street, lined with shuttered storefronts and tall oaks, dead quiet in the heat of the night. But then I heard drums. Faint at first, a slow, steady beat. Like a marching band warming up, I figured it was someone's Bluetooth speaker or my imagination, but the sound kept building, clearer, more rhythmic. I followed it, and that's when I saw them. At the far end of the street, just past the bend, were people marching. Not real people, not exactly. They moved like puppets, stiff legs, jerky arms, slow, synchronized movements, uniforms from another era, tattered revolutionary coats, Civil War boots, hats with scorched emblems. Their skin was pale, waxy, their eyes black. They didn't look at me, they marched past me, through me. I swear to God, one of them walked right through my body. I didn't feel contact, just a freezing cold where my chest should have been, like my heart forgot to beat for a second. There were dozens of them, maybe more. Flags held high, rusted instruments playing music without melody. The popsicles they tossed were rotted and melted before they hit the pavement. And then, at the end of the line, came the float. It wasn't patriotic. It was a wooden platform, dragged slowly by 4 emaciated figures in torn scout uniforms. And on top of it sat a massive white mask, porcelain, cracked with 2 dark slits for eyes. The mask turned slowly as the float rolled by, and I swear, it looked at me, not past me. At me, I ran, climbed the barricade, fell on the other side, threw up in the grass behind the library. I didn't tell anyone what I saw. Who would believe me? The next morning, I went back. The street was spotless. No confetti, no scuffs, not even footprints. But I noticed something I hadn't before. Old metal plates embedded in the sidewalk. They were stamped with names, marchers. I looked them up later. Civil War soldiers, old townspeople who died in a fire in the early 1900s, a scout troop that vanished in the woods in the 60s. All from this town, all dead. Now I stay far away on the 4th, because last year I stood near the library again just to see. And from behind the trees, I heard it. One solitary drumbeat, and a whisper that I swear came from nowhere. You stepped off the curb. Next year, you march? Ashes in the sky. The 4th of July fire started with a bottle rocket. That's what the sheriff said anyway. Some idiot lit one too close to the brush line at the edge of the hill. One spark turned into a blaze, and within an hour, half the dry ridge behind our town was on fire. This was in 2016. I was living just outside Whitefish, Montana, in a rented cabin with my dog Toby, and a half-finished manuscript I'd been working on for 3 years. I'd moved there for the solitude, the silence. I didn't plan on getting involved with the town, but that fire, it pulled everyone in. It burned for 4 days, and on the 5th day, when they finally got it under control, I hiked up the back ridge to check the damage. The trail was closed, but the smoke had mostly cleared, and I thought if I stuck to the perimeter, I'd be fine. That was the first time I saw the stone. It wasn't large, maybe the size of a shed, but it was wrong. A perfect square of blackened stone blocks, half sunken into the hillside, revealed by the fire. I'd walked that trail dozens of times before and never seen it. It looked old, ancient, even no moss, no debris, just a foundation untouched by time or vegetation. Like the fire had been meant to uncover it. I should have left it alone, but I didn't. I came back the next day with gloves, a trowel, and a camera. The whole place reeked of ash, and the ground still felt warm under my boots. I started digging. Only a few inches down, I found bone fragments, not animal bones, human teeth, long femurs, pieces of skull, dozens of them. I stopped digging, took a few photos, zipped everything into a backpack, and left fast. I didn't tell the sheriff, didn't post about it online. Something about it felt like it wasn't mine to expose, like I'd already done too much. That night it started. At first, it was the smell. My cabin filled with the scent of burning hair and wet iron, like someone had lit a match inside a slaughterhouse. I checked every corner, every outlet, but found nothing. Then came the dreams. The first one was just static, black and white snow, like an old TV without a signal, and a low, constant whisper that never stopped. It didn't speak in words, just rhythms, like breathing underwater. The next night, I saw faces, charred faces, mouths sewn shut with wire, a long corridor underground, a voice, deep and wet, saying, "You brought the wind." I stopped sleeping after that. On July 11th, exactly 1 week after the fire started, I hiked back to the stone. It was gone or covered, like the forest had reabsorbed it overnight. Moss rocks, even a fallen tree that hadn't been there the week before. But I knew the ground. I could still feel the heat radiating through my boots, and I could hear something from under the soil, breathing. The dreams got worse. I'd wake up with ash on my pillow, the smell of smoke in my lungs. My dog Toby refused to go near the back door anymore. He'd stare at the window for hours, ears flat, tail down like he could see something I couldn't. On July 13th, I noticed something strange in the sky. The clouds were wrong, too still, too symmetrical, like smoke, frozen in midair. And then the voices started, not in my head. Out loud, they came from the sky. Every night at 3:17 a.m., I'd wake to whispers, floating down with the ash that seemed to fall, despite the clear skies, names, dates, phrases I couldn't understand. Ashes for mouths. We lit the sky to be seen again. You stirred what we buried. I started writing them down, hundreds of fragments. None made sense. But together, they started forming something like a prayer or a warning. The final straw came on. July 16th. I woke up to find footprints in the ash outside my door, barefoot human, dozens of them leading from the woods to the cabin and back. Toby was gone, just gone. No struggle, no blood, just his collar resting on the front step. I packed everything and left before sunrise. I haven't been back to Montana since. But every 4th of July, no matter where I go, I wake up at 3:17 a.m. The sky outside my window's never quite right, and there's always a faint layer of ash on my windowsill. I've tried moving, I've tried burning the photos. Nothing helps, because I think the fire wasn't an accident. I think it was an invitation, and by digging, by witnessing, I RSVP'd. Freedom has a dark side, and some roads are better left untraveled. Thanks for riding with Trucker of the Night. Keep your lights on, and your stories close. I'll catch you down the line.